Welcome iPix viewers. Let's fix SIEM pain the smart way. If you're managing a security information and event management system, you're likely familiar with a constant, low-grade battle. It's a fight against escalating costs, overwhelming data, and the relentless pressure to protect your organization. Today, we're not just acknowledging that struggle. We're going to map out a definitive solution. We'll break down the 5 core challenges of traditional on-premise SIEM and demonstrate how a cloud-native approach, specifically with a solution like Microsoft Sentinel, doesn't just ease the pain, it transforms your security posture from reactive to proactive. So you need to watch this if you're constantly bleeding budget on an on-premise SIEM that feels more like a financial black hole than a security asset. You need to watch this if the sheer volume of alerts consistently outpaces your team's ability to investigate, leaving you wondering what critical threat is buried in the noise. You need to watch this if the constant worry about compliance mandates or maintaining uptime keeps you up at night, second-guessing if your current system can truly handle a sophisticated attack. And you absolutely need to watch this if your team is stretched to its limits, and hiring more expert analysts simply isn't a feasible option in the current climate. If any of these sound familiar, you're in the right place. Let's dive deeper into why these problems persist and how to solve them for good. Let's start with the most tangible pain point: the costs that just keep climbing. With a traditional SIEM, your total cost of ownership, or TCO, is a complex and often unpredictable beast. It begins with the obvious: hardware. You're on the hook for the initial purchase, the ongoing maintenance, and the inevitable refresh cycles for servers powerful enough to process and query massive datasets. Then comes storage. As your data ingestion grows, and it always grows, so does your need for more SANs, more NAS, more disk arrays. This isn't just about capacity, it's about performance. You need expensive, high IOPS storage to meet your query SLAs, and cheaper, slower storage for long-term retention, forcing you into a complicated and costly tiered system. Next up is licensing. This is often the most frustrating part. Traditional SIEMs frequently license based on events per second or gigabytes per day. The moment your business grows, you add a new data source, or a promotional event causes a traffic spike, you risk blowing past your license limits. This creates a perverse incentive. Security teams are forced to choose which data to ingest, leaving critical visibility gaps just to avoid a massive, unbudgeted bill. Finally, there's the hidden cost of operations. This includes the specialized personnel required to patch, update, and maintain the SIEM infrastructure itself. Their time is spent being system administrators for the SIEM, not security analysts hunting for threats. When you add all this up, hardware, storage, licensing, and ops, forecasting your security budget becomes nearly impossible. You're constantly reacting to capacity needs rather than strategically planning your security investments. A cloud-native SIEM flips this model on its head. It's a predictable, consumption-based service. You pay for what you use, with the ability to scale up or down instantly. The underlying infrastructure is managed for you, freeing your team to focus purely on security outcomes. Now, let's talk about the fuel for your SIEM: data. The modern enterprise is a sprawling ecosystem of data sources. Your critical information no longer resides neatly within your on-premise data center. This creates our second major challenge: data sprawl. You can't effectively ingest and correlate all the signals you need. First, you have your multi-cloud environments. Your developers are spinning up resources in Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. Each platform has its own unique logging format and API. Trying to pull all of that back to an on-prem SIEM is inefficient, expensive due to egress costs, and often unreliable. Then you have the explosion of SaaS applications. Your business runs on Salesforce, Microsoft 365, Workday, and dozens of other services. Each one is a potential source of compromise and a critical source of security telemetry. Without native, easy-to-configure connectors, your visibility into these platforms is partial at best. Add to that the telemetry from your remote workforce. Endpoints are everywhere, connecting from untrusted networks. Capturing their security logs, network traffic, and application usage reliably is a massive challenge for a centralized on-premise architecture. The result is a patchwork of collection agents, custom scripts, and syslog forwarders that are brittle and difficult to maintain. A cloud-native SIEM is built for this reality. It lives in the same ecosystem as your cloud and SaaS data, offering hundreds of built-in connectors that can be enabled with a few clicks. It simplifies ingestion from on-prem and remote sources, providing a single unified view across your entire digital estate. With all that data flowing in, we hit our third wall: crippling alert fatigue. The promise of a SIEM was to centralize alerts, but for many, it has simply centralized the noise. Your team is drowning in a sea of low-fidelity, context-poor alerts, making it impossible to distinguish a real, sophisticated attack from routine system behavior. You need smarter analytics. Traditional SIEMs rely heavily on basic correlation rules that you have to write and maintain yourself. A rule like 5 failed logins followed by a successful one might have been useful a decade ago, but today it generates thousands of false positives. Modern attacks are more subtle. They involve a chain of seemingly benign events across different systems. To spot them, you need more than just correlation. You need behavioral analytics and machine learning. This is where a cloud-native platform like Sentinel excels. It comes with built-in AI and user and entity behavior analytics, or UEBA. It learns the normal baseline for every user and device in your environment. So instead of alerting on a single failed login, it alerts you when a user who normally works from Dublin during business hours suddenly logs in from a new device in Southeast Asia at 3 a.m. and starts accessing sensitive files they've never touched before. It automatically stitches together these weak signals from different data sources, cloud logins, endpoint alerts, network traffic, into a single, high-confidence incident. This built-in intelligence reduces noise by orders of magnitude, allowing your analysts to focus their time and expertise on the threats that truly matter. This leads directly to our fourth challenge: immense pressure to meet incident response SLAs. Your board and your customers expect threats to be contained in minutes, not days. The two key metrics here are mean time to detect, MTTD, and mean time to respond, MTTR. With a slow, on-prem SIEM, both of these metrics suffer. Faster detection is paramount. When your SIEM takes minutes or even hours to run complex queries across terabytes of data, your attackers have a massive head start. They can move laterally, escalate privileges, and exfiltrate data long before you even know they're there. You also need to empower proactive threat hunting. Hunting is the practice of searching for threats that your automated detections may have missed. It requires analysts to form a hypothesis and then test it against your data. This is impossible if every query is a slow, painful process. The cloud provides the answer: massive, elastic scale. A cloud-native SIEM can throw virtually unlimited compute power at a query, returning results across petabytes of data in seconds. This dramatically shrinks your MTTD. It also makes threat hunting a fluid, interactive experience, improving your chances of finding attackers before they cause damage. This ability to scale on demand beats any manual, patchwork system of adding more on-prem servers. It means your response capabilities are never constrained by your infrastructure. Finally, let's address the human element, our fifth and most critical constraint: team limits. There is a global shortage of cybersecurity talent. You can't simply hire your way out of this problem. If your team is spending its days managing infrastructure, tuning noisy alerts, and manually performing repetitive investigation steps, you are wasting your most valuable resource. If hiring isn't an option, you must turn to force multipliers. Cloud automation is that force multiplier. Modern cloud-native SIEMs have security orchestration, automation, and response, or SOAR, built directly into the platform. This allows you to create automated playbooks that execute routine tasks at machine speed. For example, when an alert for a malicious file on an endpoint comes in, a playbook can automatically run. It can enrich the alert with threat intelligence about the file hash, check the user's role in the organization, and query other systems to see if that file exists elsewhere. It can then take action, like isolating the infected machine from the network and opening a ticket in your service desk with all the compiled information. This level of automation fills the gap left by staffing shortages. It handles the Tier 1 triage, freeing up your human analysts to work on complex investigations and strategic initiatives. It ensures a consistent, error-free response process 24/7 without burnout. So, how do you get there? A rip and replace migration is daunting. The smart approach is a phased pilot. First, define a clear scope. Don't try to boil the ocean. Start with a high-value, low-friction data source, like your Microsoft 365 or Azure activity logs. The goal is to demonstrate quick wins. Next, focus on data onboarding. Use the native connectors to bring in your pilot data sources. This is your chance to see how much easier it is than managing sizelog forwarders. Then, implement cost controls from day one. Cloud SIEMs offer granular controls. You can set daily ingestion caps, define data retention policies, and use features like basic log tiers or archival for data that you need to keep for compliance but don't need for active threat hunting. Finally, establish security baselines. Enable a few key analytic rules and a sample automation playbook. The goal isn't to replicate your entire on-prem rule set, but to showcase the power of high-fidelity, AI-driven detections and automated response. The ROI becomes clear very quickly. You're not just shifting costs, you're eliminating entire categories of expense: hardware refreshes, infrastructure management overhead, and licensing overages. Your team's productivity skyrockets as they move from maintenance to actual security analysis. But what about the common objections? We have data residency requirements. Cloud providers have data centers in sovereign regions all over the world, allowing you to keep your data within specific geographic boundaries. We're worried about compliance. Major cloud platforms meet more compliance certifications, from PCI DSS to HIPAA to FedRAMP, than most individual organizations could ever achieve on their own. What about data egress costs? By analyzing data where it lives, in the cloud, you dramatically reduce the need to pull it back on-prem, which is the primary driver of egress fees. These objections, while valid to consider, have been solved by modern cloud architecture. We've covered the 5 core struggles: spiraling costs, data sprawl, alert fatigue, SLA pressure, and team limitations. We've seen how a cloud-native approach directly addresses each one, not with a temporary patch, but with a fundamental architectural advantage. The path forward is clear and manageable. If 2 or more of the problems we discussed today apply to your organization, it's time to stop fighting your SIEM. It's time to let the cloud fight for you. Start a cloud pilot this quarter.